Hello, and thank you for tuning in to today's segment of The Thrive Show. My name is Emily Edmonds, and I am the Program Administrator for Community Programs for the City of Chesapeake. Today, I'd like to welcome Tom Crockett from Together We Can.
Hello.
How you doing? And so we are here to talk about how Together We Can and Disconnected Youth relates to the school age supports priority area, as well as like our workforce development area. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
That's good. Well, we've heard the term youth disconnection, disconnected youth. Can you tell me what is youth disconnection?
Sure. It's a kind of a category of at-risk youth as a more general category, but it's specifically youth that are 16 to 24 who aren't working, they're not in school, and they're not usually well connected to community in any way. They may be just a misstep away from homelessness or incarceration or being trafficked. They can hit a crisis point very easily because of not working and not being in school and not well connected to community.
Right. What are some of the risk factors associated with that?
We find that youth that maybe have been in foster care in their adolescence, youth involved with the juvenile justice system or the court system in some way, can be poverty as a risk factor, can be academic challenges with kind of being at risk of dropping out of school without even earning a high school diploma. And sometimes mental or behavioral health challenges can also be a risk factor.
All right. So with all those things, can you tell me a little bit about Together We Can and how you work with disconnected youth?
Sure. We started, formed in 2008. I was hired in 2010, and we initially worked with youth that were in foster care. And they had a really abysmal rate of transitioning successfully to adult life. They just stalled out. And we launched a program we call our Smart Transitions program, which focuses on some of the success skills that kids in a less stable environment growing up don't get exposed to. Things like planning, because when you grow up in foster care or you live with poverty, you don't do a lot of planning. You just deal with whatever shows up. So planning is a big one. Self-awareness to the point where you can present yourself well to an employer, make yourself attractive and hireable is another thing that we focus on with our Smart Transitions program.
Oh, that's good. And so with those transitions in the transition to adulthood, what would you say like a successful transition into adulthood looks like?
What we try and encourage is we encourage and track for graduate from high school, get that high school diploma, pursue some kind of post-secondary education or skills training, because you've got to have some skills that raise you up out of simple minimum wage, kind of minimum wage poverty trap. The third is, do you have the ability to make yourself attractive and hireable, to get hired and placed for a job? So those are the things that we focus on.
So I know you mentioned the Smart Transitions program. Are there any other programs that you all utilize?
Smart Transitions is our five-session course. In that course, we first of all start with, okay, so you may have identified a career that you think you're interested in, but let's back up a little bit. Who are you? What are your talents, the things you're naturally good at? What are your skills, things you've practiced and developed over the years? What are your passions? What do you love to do?
Right.
What are your values? What do you care about? And what are your aspirations? And if they can understand those things, it might give them connect them to a career path that makes more sense to them, that feels right. And the second part of the class is that we focus on developing a personal presentation portfolio, which is a booklet like this. We do a professional headshot of the youth, help them develop a resume, references, and then get them to find evidence of their successes, their skills. And those can be certificates for things that they've done. They can be letters of recommendation. And we talk to them about gaining those things. Sometimes it's just photographs of themselves doing things, work-related things. And we find that the portfolio does a couple of things. First of all, when they are doing it, it really focuses them on, okay, who's the me that I want to present to an employer in a positive light? The second is when they go into that interview, they've got a confidence booster. They're not just saying stuff, they're actually got something to share. And third, when an employer sees a young person coming in and they've thought this much about themselves and their career and themselves as a worker, they very often give them a shot.
Yeah, that's a very great tool that they use. Do you have any other stories of like some success stories of some individuals that may have participated?
One of the young ladies who that we worked with kind of early on was in foster care and was she already had a child and was kind of struggling a little bit. And through the class, she identified that she would maybe be interested in pharmaceutical tech. And so she took a training program. We helped her get her certification in that, and then actually helped her get her first job at Kroger as a pharmacy tech. And now she is the lead pharmacist for all of Kroger in this area.
Oh, that's great. So with all of that, the transitions, what is it that we can do in the community to work with disconnected youth?
Well, I think the thing that we find that makes the biggest difference, there are certainly systemic barriers to youth successfully transitioning to adult life. But what helps a youth most are probably addressing some of the behavioral barriers and getting them to understand how work works. One of the things with our foster care kids is that they're not encouraged to work while they're in foster care, so they don't get that experience of the teenage jobs where you kind of learn how work works. And for a lot of our kids, they've never had work experiences. So when they do get a job, sometimes they struggle with, well, if my boss is mean or my boss doesn't like me, I've got to quit.
Right.
As opposed to, how do I figure this out? How do I work with this? And so addressing those kind of behavioral things is probably the key thing that we focus on.
That's good. Is there a referral process and getting involved with Together We Can, or what's the steps they should take if they're interested?
Well, our name, Together We Can, really denotes how we work. We partner with other agencies. We partner with municipal social services, with court programs, with local nonprofits, especially with cities like Chesapeake, through the school system, through the foster care program in Chesapeake. We actually, we partner with them by bringing our services directly to you.
Okay.
And so if you have an organization that already has youth together that might benefit from this program, you can contact us. It's twcfoundation.org, or you can contact, that's probably the best way of getting us, or contacting me directly.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming today and sharing this great information about what Together We Can does and what we do and how we can help work with disconnected youth in our communities.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
No problem. And thank you all for joining for today's segment of The Thrive Show. See you next time.